Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, Jen.
Shelley Fant,
Ginny Happ.
Anita Matt,
Present.
Sharma Gillen,
Escosi Sukali.
Carol Langford, Len Titi, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy,
Present.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Martin, could you lead us in prayer this morning, please?
Thank you, Creator, for the day. Thanks for everyone that's here today. All my colleagues, all of our workers, especially the people out there on the front lines of the fires, and our first responders and our military, and all the people that we sometimes forget about that are very, very important. And so we have to remember them. Just prayers for everyone, our families, kids, parents, grandparents, grandkids, anyone in between. And just let us get through whatever struggles we're suffering from. Make sure that we have a good mind while we're here, and we make sure that we are doing our best. I pray for all my friends and all my enemies and anyone in between. Limits.
Much, Martin. And I know that many of you had a late night last night, so we'll try to keep it lively and exciting and keep everybody awake. So we have a set of minutes from August 3rd.
Madam Chair, on page 3, top of the page, could I just put that? Can I just put that there are questions regarding evacuations instead of basically put Martin commented that there have been questions regarding the evacuations.
Thank you. Abby, also at the top of page 3, I'm not sure there was staff from Gianforte's office at that community meeting. I know Tester Danes and Rosendale's staffers were there, but if you could take out Gianforte, I don't remember him being there.
Madam Chair, motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Motion by Martin, second by Ellie. Are there any other changes? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. So we have the agenda in front of us today. Len?
There's something I would like to discuss with council that we could add to the agenda.
I'm sure I have something in open. Thank you.
So we have additions from Carol, Len, and Martin. Is there anything else? Okay, motion by Len, second by Anita to approve the agenda with the additions. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. So first up, we have our new Lake County Commissioner. If you want to come up to the table here, and there's a little button on the end of that microphone. If you can push it, then we can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairwoman, I'm sorry. I thought I would come down and introduce myself to council and tell you where I came from and why I'm here. We have Commissioner, great Dave, forget his name, isn't it? Dave Stipe has been fighting cancer and had to resign as of the end of July. And so the Republican committee picks 3 people and presents that to commissioners. And from those 3, they pick who they want to replace Dave with. And I was that person. I have been here for a long time. I spent 24 years at St. Joseph's Hospital. And during that time in 1987, I was appointed as a deputy coordinator for Lake County Disaster Emergency Services. Back in those days, Lloyd Jackson was a tribal DES coordinator, along with Frank Acevedo, with his deputy, and Jim Westerman. Every response that I've done over the last 31 years has been a joint response. And we had some great times. In 2000, Dick Giffen retired. I was appointed as the coordinator for Lake County Office of Emergency Management, and Jolene at that same time replaced Lloyd. We worked really well together. Jolene and I laughed. It was a lot like a marriage. There was hardly a day we didn't talk. Some things that we did that were I think inventive and worked well. The tribe is required to have a tribal emergency response committee, and the county is required to have a local emergency planning committee. And it became very obvious to Jolene and Steve that everyone that should be on either committee should be on both committees. And so we joined the Turk LEPC, and it is that way today, which led for great collaboration. Anything we did jointly. The other piece that we added to that is the health department met before the Turk LAPC meeting, and jointly the county and the tribe. And Barb Plouffe was a huge driver in that. So they reported to the Turk LAPC at every meeting, which was monthly at that point. A product of that was the pre-disaster mitigation plan, which the tribe is required to have and the county is required to have. Sanders County is required to have. We did jointly. We applied for the grant and we did that planning process together. And our thought was, when the leaders came together and had to make decisions, why not have the same framework to work from. And same with the emergency operations plan. If you look at your emergency operations plan today, you'll find that Sanders County has the same framework as Lake County, and the tribe has the same framework as Lake and Sanders County. And the reason being is the commission and the council comes together because of a disaster. At least the framework that you're working from will be the same, allowing council and the commissioners to take care of, requirements that the council has and the commissioners have, but at least you head down the same road because at any rate, so that worked really well. And after 9/11, the war supplemental monies were available. Jolene and I did those as joint grants, and around $1 million we brought to the reservation into the county. We addressed radios for every first responder on the county, including fire management, gas masks for all law enforcement on the reservation and in the county. We ended up with the communications platform for Jolene, which was the white vehicle you see today, and a decon trailer that we still have. I guess I also go back to the first tire fire, one of I think 3 now. Jolene, I was headed to Great Falls. I called Joe. Joe called EPA. We had non-scene coordinator here that day, and that fire was seamless. We brought fire management in to handle the record keeping for us. Every first responder was paid that fire. Where I'm headed with this is we have done over the last 31 years a lot of stuff together, Jolene and Steve. Fire management is absolutely bulletproof. We saw it Sunday night when Bob made 2 clicks on his radio, called Lake County Dispatch, asked for every structure engine he could get. And it literally was from Big Fork to Arlee showed up. Those are things that are built out of relationships that were built over many, many years, and have paid off more than once. In fact, a lot. So I retired 3 years ago, and lost my daughter 3 years ago. So it took a year getting our feet back on the ground, and we got the grandkids, and then I spent a year doing what I wanted to do around the house, wherever. My wife retired 4 months ago, so I thought maybe a good idea if I went back to work, and I did. I'm very interested in working with the tribe and doing what I've done for 31 years. I have high hopes. Being a commissioner changes the rules. I understand that. But I think there are areas that we can work together really, really well. There'll be areas that we probably will have some challenges. But I want you to know that I've done it before. I hope to do it in the future. If you have any questions, love to answer them. If not, I will leave you be.
I'm not sure you introduced yourself with your name.
How about Steve Stanley? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Well, Steve, thank you for that history on your work with collaborating with the tribes. And as you mentioned, those plans are absolutely essential to be in place, and the same template when we get to a situation like fire, or as we saw this past year in a pandemic, we were able to build, I believe, a stronger relationship with Lake County commissioners through the Unified Command Team. And since then, Bill Barron and I have committed to meeting twice a month to look at projects that would benefit all the reservation residents. Because what we found out through the pandemic was we had more common areas than differences that we could work on together. So,
Shelley, I also would love an opportunity to have a council person that would be willing to do that with me. And explain the frustration because of the public open meeting laws. We can't do stuff together. Bill Barron wanted to be here today, and because we didn't get it on the commissioner's agenda, we got it on our board, but we didn't get it on the agenda 48 hours ahead of time, then it shot us in the foot. So I would love that opportunity also.
Perfect. Are there any questions for Steve? Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you. You got big shoes to fill with Mr. Stipe. He was quite
Yes.
the
Yes.
individual. I enjoyed always visiting with him. You didn't say what part of the county are you from? I'm sorry.
District 2, which is from basically Round Butte Road south.
Okay,
I was raised in District 1, just out of Pulse, and I was up there for many, many years. The parents had a place. Moved to St. Ignatius about 8 years ago.
thank you.
Ellie?
Congratulations on the new position, Steve.
Thank you.
We visited just prior to him speaking this morning. He does live in St. Ignatius, and being my district, I'm always available to visit whenever. So before you leave, I have my card and cell phone number and would love to.
And when I get my cards with numbers, I'll give them to you. In fact, I'll give them to the council.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, question. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
And
you,
I kept
Carol.
looking at you and I think, I know this guy from somewhere. Now I know. Anyway, yes, congratulations. And I want to say that a lot of times the differences between the tribes and county is usually a legal issue. And I would hope that in the future, instead of ending up in court or wherever, that we could have our legal counsel sit down and discuss things before, we get to that point, because I think a lot of times we can resolve stuff without it costing a lot of money. And, there's always a common solution if there's a balance involved. So I just want to encourage that to happen. I don't know if it can, but anyway, that's my thought, is we could probably resolve a lot without it costing us too much money. So thank you.
Let me give you Steve's theory, and I'll pick on Jolene Jacobson, who's in rest home, by the way, in Yakima right now. There's some things that we did is we were always straightforward with each other. We knew there were areas that Jolene was walking on pretty thin ice trying to do, so we discussed that and how we could work around that. Relationships are absolutely positively the best foundation you can build off of. And I'll pick on Bob McCray. Worked with Bob for a ton of years, and Bob knows that I have his back and he has mine. We've never had an issue. We need to get to the point, and again, understand there's some rules apparently we have to live by that make it hard for us. And I think that's why it's so important for us to be talking to council folks on a regular basis. I agree 100%. The other thing that we need to do, in my opinion, is if we see something coming down the road, council needs to know ahead of time before we even get to that point. I guess the other thing I would ask is, I'm not great with email. Call me. If you think there's something that's going to give us heartburn, please call me. In fact, Commissioner Decker and I had quite the conversation last night over this meeting. He was concerned about open meeting laws, and he had valid points. But if we hadn't talked, it would have been a nightmare today in the office. So call, just call.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Stanley, for your service, taking this position. And I want to just welcome you as well. My name is Charmel Gillen. I'm in the Polson District presently. And I appreciate, and I used to work with Lloyd and Jolene and the crew way back when I'm sure you were in the office quite often. And so I really value the relationships that you're speaking of, and I'm sure that you are well versed in the Treaty of Hellgate, the treaty that the tribes enjoys, which I just want to say, I always like to mention to other government officials and individuals who we engage with, that I think it's so important to build relationships on the foundations that are appropriate, and this treaty is the foundation, you know, that I think is really important to know and understand. And so you've probably seen it many times. If you'd like to have my pocket version,
I would
I'd be
love to.
happy to give it to you. We just recognized the treaty here recently, and we want to elevate the awareness and education just overall in the community and in the state and et cetera. So I just wanted to offer that to you
Please.
and thank you for acknowledging your respect and relationships with the tribes. Thank you for your service.
I guess I'd like to make one other comment, and I hope I don't step on my foot. We're forced in the world to get along. In a world we had not a lot of input in the rules we have to live by. And I'm hoping that elected officials up high will understand that it's a challenge for the tribe sometimes in the county to get along. And a great example is our last pre-disaster mitigation plan. We were headed down the road, we had a contractor, and they all of a sudden said, well, the funding is different for the tribe because they have a cultural section that they have to have. So you can't do it together. And I said, are you kidding me? The cultural section could still be done. We could still do it together, but they made it impossible to do so. And that was very frustrating to me because we had done so well in the past. I also have to ask, Frank Gillen, are you related to?
He is my brother-in-law.
Really? Well, I have to share with you that I have some fond memories of Frank. Talked to him,
We
not
just-
regularly, but
We just enjoyed visiting for dinner last night, so he's visiting.
Is
for
he
a few
here?
days. Mhm.
if you see him, have him give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess what I'm saying to council is I'm more than willing to head down the road and work on things and hopefully I could make things a little bit better. I mean, we've done it in the past, so.
Ellie?
Steve, what is your number?
My personal number right now is 260-7583. And that will be transferred to my new county cell phone. My home phone, which is unlisted, and I'm thinking I probably should get a listed number. And it was unlisted long before I came along. My wife had it, so it wasn't my idea, is 745-0134. Personal email address is ramshead@montana.com. My county email is sstanley@montana.gov. Phone calls work really, really well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Stanley. I appreciate you coming in today and introducing yourself to all of us. And we look forward to working together in the future.
I do too.
So-
Thank you so much
All
for
right,
your time.
Thank you. And don't forget Ellie has a card
Okay.
and Charmel has a treaty. Thank you.
Have a great day.
So I believe we have a fire update at this point. I think the incident command team is going to be here with Rich's presentation for our request for the closure, but Ron, if you want to get us started.
Yeah, I'll just, we got an incident management team that is handling older 2700 fire. What we're passing out is the IR flight that was taken this morning of the two main fires that we currently have on the reservation. One up Jocko Canyon, it's called the Crooks Fire, and the other one is the Boulder 2700 fire. The Crooks Fire, we've got most of our team members involved in right now. We're pushing, opening up along the canal. We tied in with the Flathead Irrigation Project, talked about what we can do along the canal. Looking at what we can do to herd this fire up into the, the roadless areas as opposed to letting it come down to the homes. So that's where we're at right now. Art Trahans, the incident commander, we've got Big Robert McCrae's with him. And a number of our folks are tied in. A lot of our contractors are tied into there, and we've got one crew. I did request an incident management team. We did Tony Harwood and I and Shanna Redford completed a WIFDIS document, which is the Wildfire Decision Support document. It looks at all the complexities associated with the fire and comes up with a determination of what level of complexity that fire is and what type of incident management team or organization should be required to manage that effectively and safely. So it came out as a complex incident due to a number of political, social issues and concerns. So we pushed in the button for an incident management team yesterday. That's the second time I put in for a team. We will likely not receive a team for that fire just due to how it ranks on the priority list within the Northern Rockies. The fire is not full containment. You can't put people up on Dancing Boy and do direct line up to the top of that fire and come around it. There are no opportunities to engage with people safely and be effective. So it's really limiting. So although I did put in for a team, I really hope we don't get one. I like the way our guys are going, how we're organized, how we're moving. We know that ground. So it required requesting a team, but at the same time, I'm kind of hopeful that we don't get one. We'll take care of that one by ourselves. So the other fire that we've got is the Boulder fire. That's the IR flight for the Boulder fire. You can see, let's talk about real quick the Crooks. You can see how low it came. If you are familiar with that neck of the woods, just north where that 27 is the start of Jammer. So you're looking right at Jocko Prairie. 28 would be Jocko Prairie. It'd be the open area that we just did work in. It's where we work at. I think you might have flown into that yellow spot there, Honorable Chairwoman. That's our LZ typically. So that's the heat signature that's coming off of that. You can see that finger came down. It's not significant, but it's a finger definitely. So our plan is to keep up. If that finger begins to progress to the west, we've completed some work in there and we would just start burning and not allowing it to come down freely and transition on us. So we will be just working
those edges as they present themselves down to the valley floor is our plan. Certainly we'll be looking at weather and seeing if there's opportunities or the need to do a more aggressive approach. But right now that's where we're at. Looking at the Boulder 2700 road, you can see where the fire bammed into the lake there with all the residences. Those are the little black dots along the shoreline. Not a lot of heat signature coming out of that area at this point. So I feel comfortable with what they've got progressed in that particular area. The concern is trying to figure out how to deal with the flanks of this fire as it progresses uphill. The fire made a pretty good push up one of the drainages yesterday. That was a big column of smoke. And right now, just trying to figure out where the sideboards are going to be, where the flanks are going to be on this fire seems to be a challenge. Limited resources nationally, I think it's impacting this team's effectiveness in terms of going up the hill. So it's going to be a challenging fire. I'm almost certain that this team will not be able to get around the fire. So we'll have to start talking about ordering a second team and hoping that we get that second team at some point. So this team will be on for 14 days. I talked with Rick, the IC, and we talked about, at some point, maybe 5-6 days before transition, like pretty soon, we just start talking about the needs and looking at things and trying to come up with a plan for another team to come in and assume command of that fire, because it does look like that will be likely taking place. Outside of that, we're trying to manage our folks after that long night. We've gotten a lot of people to have some time off to what we call reset, and it seems like we're doing that appropriately. We have some more resources that came in recently from Oklahoma. We got some that went home, but they want to come back and join. So we're still maneuvering resources and tracking that for our own initial attack. Another thing that was interesting, typically teams help us. When we get a team in, we'll have them support us with resources. It seems like right now it's just so limited that we're supporting them, which is just interesting. And just so you know, we're sending our engines there in the morning, a few of them. And last night we pushed 2 cats their way so that they had more horsepower. Brad Morjo and TJ Haynes's cat both transported from the Crooks fire to this fire this morning and checked in. We do have some road closures that the lands department staffing right now to keep people out of the fire area. And road closures and those types of things are starting to become a drain, and it's starting to move me towards forest closures. To be quite honest with you, just in my own mind, is that I need every firefighter ready with this tool, ready to do battle with a fire, as opposed to closing a road or being concerned about the road being closed. Just alleviate that type of situation. So that's kind of where I'm talking with Tony right now and just talking about that type of situation, because I think that would actually alleviate that. They would be breaking the law at that point. We've had some road closures up from St. Mary's, keeping people out of there, and we still have people, unfortunately, tribal members typically going behind that, and we're shooing them back out of the area. It just pulls your attention away from the task at hand. And so to mitigate that, we started having people that we have in our fire crew stationed at those roads. So just looking at that as a drain. And the issue too is if all of a sudden we get a fire, we're pulling those folks that are blocking that road. And I don't know what we can do in terms of enforcement or what your suggestions or recommendations are along those lines, but when people knowingly and willingly go around. I mean, we had a roadblock up and it's now gone. How we want to deal with that. I'll pause now for questions. Everyone's looking at me like, just quit. All right.
So Rick Enos has been working with Tony Jr. to develop a plan, including enforcement. We could very easily mobilize the land monitors that we had last year during the pandemic when we did the recreational land closures. So we're just depending on forestry and fire control to make that call so we can close the forest entirely. So that's where I understand that to be. I just wanted to let everyone know I attended a cooperators meeting yesterday with the incident command team. It was very informational. Some of the cooperators are the U.S. Forest Service, the BIA, Montana DNRC. We had Lake County law enforcement there. We also had in the early stages of, I believe both the Crooks, but maybe it was just the Boulder, we had volunteer rural fire departments from Arley to Big Fork. So there was just this tremendous effort, and the cooperators meeting was yesterday. I did record it and I have to figure out how to get it off my phone because it's a 35-minute video, but I'll get some technical assistance and send it out to you all hopefully this morning. Additionally, the Governor Gianforte came this morning at 8:30 to the briefing at the college. And it was a very comprehensive briefing. He talked about, well, the most important thing, I guess, was what are our needs? And the team relayed the need for more air assets because both of these fires are in really steep areas, and that's our main, I think, strategy right now is just using those, you know, the water and the helicopters, the planes to dump water on there. So I was really encouraged by that. They did say that it is the #1 fire in Montana right now. Early on, it was the #1 fire in the nation, but you know, the way things are changing, the weather, everything, that can change on a daily, if not hourly basis. So with that, I guess I'd like to introduce the incident commander, Rick Connell. Do you want to introduce yourself to the council? If you can push that button. There you go.
Yeah, so I'm Rick Connell. I'm the incident commander of Team 4 in the Northern Rockies. We're a quote local team, although I have members from Oregon to New York. I used to have somebody in Hawaii, but he moved to Florida. I don't know how you make that choice. Grandkids, I think. But I'm also one of your partners. I work for the Flathead National Forest. I'm the fire staff officer, so I'm up in Kalispell. So I've worked with Ron on you know, our local fire group needs, et cetera. And we were here, this team was here for Firestone Flats, for those of you who remember way back then on that fire. And I actually found a folder in the trailer that had the Firestone Flat name on it. So yes, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's important too to let the council know, when Rick came in, we had been given a pretty rough go for a couple of days, and Rick could see that in our eyes. So he pulled, it's almost a hostile, quick takeover of this fire. He came in at 6 o'clock in the evening. By 6 o'clock in the morning, it was his fire, and I appreciated that, Rick. It helped us out.
Okay, any questions from council? If not, we can go to page 2 in your packet, the closer resolution. And Rich, do you want to lead that conversation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to see all your faces in person once again. You guys look well. Yeah, today, with legal's help and my staff's help, and we have a request from the incident command team through Rick Connell, the incident commander, with Brian Donner and Mark Newcomb, the liaison officers, and working with the legal department on drafting a resolution to close a portion of Flathead Lake near the Boulder Creek fire. that extends from Station Creek to, what the heck is it? It's just been a long night. Boulder Creek to Station Creek, extending into the lake, going west for a half mile. You can see the map right here. They're requesting this to, for us to close it to all motorized or non-motorized watercraft, including personal flotation devices, kayaks, the like. So the air operations can scoop water with their belly scoops, or they can use their helicopters to siphon water out of the lake to use on the fire for safety for the firefighters and all the personnel. What we're finding is individuals that are what they call looky-loos, or people that want to watch the fire from the lake, are causing potential issues and safety hazards for both the fire personnel and for the boaters themselves. So you can see the map there. This is requested by the incident management team yesterday. This is Martin Zobel, our GIS specialist's map that he worked on and got it done really quick. The resolution, the updated resolution, legal department looked at that this morning. They changed one word, so apparently what I wrote was sufficient for what we need to do here. So we're asking today that the tribal council formally adopt this resolution to close that portion of Flathead Lake for safety purposes and the use of the water for air operations. And Rick, if you want to add anything more that I might have left out.
Just add, so we do something called a temporary flight restriction, right, for aircraft. And so that got me thinking about, well, could we do the same thing for boats? Because it, you know, as big as the lake is, we have a very big magnet with this fire. And when you see aircrafts, you know, scooping or dipping, people want to come and see it. And normally, you know, we can move around them, especially in a big lake, but then that, you know, increases risk to the public and the pilots, and decreases efficiency if they have to go farther away to get the water to find a clear stretch. And the scoopers need about a mile of straight, you know, lake clear of people to land, drag to grab the water, and then take off again. And the other thing is also to keep people from beaching and getting into the fire just by, you know, landing on a dock or on the beach is another concern of us if we all of a sudden have public climbing into the fire area. So that was another reason besides just the aviation piece to consider closing it. It just seemed to me this was a logical way, just like with a temporary flight closure, we post those at airports. Well, we could post this information obviously in public media, but you could also, the primary big marinas where people might all around the lake, because we could have somebody coming from Summers all the way down here who may not know what's going on. And so to me, by having a resolution, and we'd put up a little, you know, poster that explains the details of why, as well as the resolution and a map, so that it could educate the public. Most people will, if you tell them to stay away for a right reason that makes sense, they're happy to comply. So.
I think the other thing that you had mentioned yesterday was just to secure those homes that are, that people are evacuated from, so people
Yep.
don't go in there and loot or whatever.
Yes. Thanks
So,
for reminding me.
I think we had a motion by Charmel, second by Anita. Questions? All those in favor? Are you in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Rich?
Thank you.
Just a quick note that your shoreline protection program led by Frank Acevedo will be handling the placement of all the buoys. We're working with the fire on getting some rope. The lake area is about 280 to 300 feet deep. So it's going to require a lot of rope, and we have the buoys, and we're working with fisheries on the fire to be able to access Highway 35 to go through to get to our boat at Blue Bay. So thank you.
And I believe we had one more issue. Steve, did you want to address that? Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Rick.
Good morning. This is kind of a sidebar, but still fire related. Up in the Crooks fire, they.
Should have mentioned that was, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
By the
So,
way,
so anyway, they did a fuel break on the main road going up to the fire. And so the byproduct of that fuel break was that there was a lot of timber that got knocked down. There was an earlier estimation, I got a call at 6 o'clock this morning, that there was 40 to 50,000 board feet stacked and ready to be processed and hauled. I got another more informed update this morning. It's probably more like 20,000 board feet with some pulp. But, so the question I'm asking is, I'd like to propose a contract modification to the Eva Paul Dell contract, which is already in place, and add this timber that was in this fuel break to their contract. They're already in place. They're just down the road. They can process it and get it off the fuel break. Fire is asking for this fuel to be removed because it just adds fuel to their fuel break. This is probably the most expedient way to do that. So on pages 7 and 8, I believe there's a resolution and a contract modification. And also I had a write-up kind of talking about, I don't know if that's in the package or not, but under CFR 163.16, sale of product without advertisement, there's 2 clauses which I think covers this activity. So this material would be harvested under that contract, and we would receive stumpage for this material at the same rate as the Eva Paul contract. So I'm asking for a modification to the Eva Paul Dell contract.
So I have a question. What would be the value of that stumpage?
It's pretty minimal. If it's at what I think is the more accurate estimate of 20,000 board feet of timber, and that would equate to about 125 tons. A ton being at, I think there's a price for the pine and price for the fir. Most of it's pine. I think it's $18 for the pine and $25 for the fir. I'd have to look up the contract. But it's under $5,000. I could say that much. It's pretty minimal. We've had similar instances like in Blowdown where we've tried to get people to, like in Dog Lake, we had 120,000 board feet and we couldn't get anybody to bid on it. And the prices were even lower than that. So this is the most efficient way, and the fire people would like to see that stuff gone as fast as possible.
So I'm wondering, rather than get stumpage out of it, and this is just my idea, to deck it somewhere and use it for firewood, because I know a lot of our wood cutters are going to be unable to access the woods in our lead to, fill their orders or whatever. So, and this looks like it's going to be a long-term event. I'm not sure what you said. There was some pine, but some fir as well. So
I think a majority of it is ponderosa pine, so it wouldn't be, very good firewood products. So it sounds like most of the money's in your fir.
Yeah,
but I
that's
don't
where the
think there
bigger
was a
value is as in
ton
the
of
fir. Pine is kind of actually tough to move, especially that amount it's like four truckloads. It'd be tough for somebody to find a market for that. If it was all Doug fir, it'd be a lot easier.
Lynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the council, I'll make the motion to approve the amendment to the contract.
Okay, motion by Lynn, second by Mike. Questions? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, So just be aware, there's gonna be a situation with firewood down the road.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to figure out a way to work with that.
Yeah, this might not be the last load either, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but
As we're turning the corner, there's might be some opportunity that we see that we need to remove some of that overstory, separate the crowns and, yeah, we gave them the green light to go ahead and do what we need to do to make sure that we can hold that fire at the toe. Yeah, so closures, you know, I've taken a lot of calls, heat, discussion. You know, as a fire manager, I'm usually a little too close to it. I didn't see any activities in the woods being a create or starting any fires at this point, but at the same time, maybe it's just a matter of time before it does. Or as we go into August, if we get more starts, it's always our first thing with our helicopter was to fly up on top to make sure nobody's there. Seems to be a common deal right now, just to make sure the fire area is cleared. So if we had closures, hopefully our public wouldn't be in the way of that. But so that's where I'm at with this at this point. I think August is, well, we just started in, I think it's the 5th. So we've got a lot of road ahead in what is historically known as our fire season. And so I think it would be a proactive approach. I've discussed it with Tony, and we're on board with going with forest closures.
Okay, Ellie has a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, mine was about the Crooks fire. We'd last heard that there were 20 structures. Is that, or Boulder, I'm sorry. 20 structures that were affected. Is that count still accurate?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the word's been out to everyone. I think the number is going to be higher than 20. If you're just looking at structures, the delineation, the report will come in from primary homes to outbuildings. And I'm not positive that information's been released at this
So
point. I
this
think we
morning
just
at the
hold that.
briefing, they said 8 homes with 22 structures. That was at this morning's briefing with the
So
governor.
8 primaries. So yeah, that sounds, I've not been in to really take an assessment, and I know Lake County is working that through. And I wasn't sure if they had an official count or ready to provide that officially, but that sounds accurate to me.
Forest closures, what?
I would like to request tribal council to close the forest. And how that is going to look, I mean, that would be interesting. It'll be a challenge, but at this point, I'm just requesting that we close the forest to eliminate risks to the public and hopefully eliminate person-caused fires. I think we'd extend that through till we can all agree a period of time when we feel comfortable allowing people to move in. I'm not going to say exactly when that time will be or what the time frame looks like, but I'm sure that when we come forward, we'll know that it is time to open the woods back up. But I would like that to take place at this time.
Okay, Charmel has a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I want to support that. I want to know though, is there a draft resolution or a management or operation plan that goes with that? Or when you say forest, is there, how will we define
Right,
that
that's,
exactly?
I'll have to dig around. That's what I was saying. I'm not sure we closed the rivers last time. I'm not sure what closures you're interested in. The forested areas would be good for me, but if we closed all wildlands within the reservation, and it sounds like you had some people working on that, was Rick and.
Yeah, Rick, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Not on the specific places of closure, more just ready to handle the manpower and logistical side of that, to take that off of the forestry and fire plate. I think we would, the intent was to defer to where the most need was based on the assessment from forestry and fire control. We do have the outline from last year, but that was recreation areas from a COVID standpoint. I don't know if there would be any distinction or any sort of different need here, but if we're moving in that direction, I will. I'll make sure that the Fish and Game staff work with, who would that be, Ron?
Fish and Game would,
Dan,
I'm
clear?
assuming Danny McClure.
No, I mean, who would they work with on your crew?
They can come
to
talk with me.
Okay, to determine kind of the highest need areas that we can make sure we cover.
So do we want to table this till this afternoon with a resolution and a operations plan?
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna take a minute to put something together. I mean,
Yeah, I think Tony's been
High-risk
working on it
areas.
as far as,
Yeah, and I think we'd kind of pushed pause because the recommendation on Tuesday morning was that it wasn't really that wasn't the direction that seemed most prudent or effective, and so I think we can see if we can get something put together by this afternoon. In either case, we can start just actively patrolling those high needs areas, even if it takes until next week to get the actual resolution put into place.
okay, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know. I understand Tony might have been observing this meeting through Zoom this morning.
He is on.
Okay,
Tony,
so-
did you want to chime in?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to drive and not interfere with what you guys are going over right now. But yes, me and Rick have been in conversation. As far as I understood right now, if we want to just say we want to close off recreation, we can initiate the plan that NRD had in place last year immediately, and then we can further define kind of where other high priority needs or forest access points might be. But we can definitely I can work with Rick today and Dan McClure today and Steve and try to get something together for where exactly we want to close and what activities for sure.
Charmel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, would it be helpful or relevant to state it as a closure for like civilian or non-governmental access, or, you know, something like that? Because I'm guessing that, Steve, that you still have activity going on in some areas. And I don't know if the rest of NRD has matters that they have to address. So is that a specific language that we can state in a motion, or will that come back later today?
Yeah, I guess that's something we can talk about. You know, we for administrative use, we'd still like to be able to access the woods to still forward our timber sales at this point. There's always that slight risk that any vehicle in the woods might be able to start something, but pretty much our guys are pretty savvy about how to park their rigs and monitor the area. What I would like to see our timber sales progress and not be frozen at this time. Most of our staff though is assigned to the fires. So we're really we have a pretty skeleton crew at forestry right now that are still working on timber sales. And I'm not sure what the status of natural resource people are, how the effect of a closure might affect their duties, but something we can talk about.
So I think
I
we
just
also need to
mentioned
take into
public.
consideration the Flathead irrigation project, because they, you know, that's the headwaters. That's where they turn the water on and off. So, Ron?
Yeah, if we just address it to the public, I would think that would be, capture that, and then people doing work would be outside of the public. My suggestion, I guess. I'm not good at writing these types of documents.
Okay, so I think Rick can take it forward to Rhonda and work on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Stay safe out there. All right, let's take a 5-minute break and allow Lance to get set up. Be back at 10:07. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Charmel is on remotely. So we can go ahead and move to the lands issues, which start on page 9 in the packet. Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Council. Thanks for having me come in today. So our first one on page 9, Tribal Lands is requesting to keep the proceeds for the two homes that sold, one in the Big Draw and one in the Nirada area, into our property management account. The reason is because the money that we got brought in this year off of that would benefit our budget on property management. We spend quite a bit on maintaining our rentals. Some of the other properties, water damages or anything like that, pumps going out. We do budget for that annually, but this year there's just been a lot more property management stuff that has came in effect, and it's actually depleted that part of our budget. We've pretty much doubled our amount on our budget side. And this money, that the proceeds that come from that would benefit the program. So it's not having to go in and try to do a budget modification this late in the year.
Okay, in speaking with Rick last night, I think I jumped the gun in scheduling you for council today, as it sounds like it's a budget committee issue that we need to consider at the next budget committee meeting.
All right.
So we'll move
table that.
forward on that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the next item up is on your page 10. It was a walk-in request, but since Tribal Lands was being put on today, Doran Dumont is here. I'll let him discuss first and then I will step in.
Did you want this in executive or open?
I was just gonna do executive but it's up.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go out of regular into executive.
He does, he tells you to call him and doesn't leave his number is what he does.